Have an update on a shooting out of the South Shore community. A 17-year-old has been charged as an adult for allegedly shooting and killing his own mother.
A 43-year-old mother. 4 bullets to the head. The shooter? Her own son. Waiting inside her home. September 19th, 2024. Tatanisha Jackson unlocks her front door after picking up her 7-year-old from school. Her husband is right behind her. The door swings open from the inside. Her teenage son stands there, gun raised. Before anyone can react, he fires, point-blank range, 4 shots. Her husband grabs their youngest and runs, dialing 911 with shaking hands. As he's on the phone, 5 more shots echo through the house. But here's what makes this even more heartbreaking. This wasn't some sudden breakdown. This was planned. Welcome to True Crime Malice. Before we go any further, drop your city in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from. Hit that subscribed button, because this one is going to shake you. To understand the weight of what was lost that September afternoon, you need to know who Tatanisha Jackson really was. She wasn't just a statistic. She wasn't just another headline. She was a woman who fought for everything she had. Tatanisha grew up in Chicago, a city that shapes you, hardens you, tests you. South Shore, her neighborhood, was a place of vibrant culture but also real struggle. It's where families work multiple jobs just to keep the lights on. Where dreams get put on hold because survival comes first. And that's exactly what happened to Tatanisha. From a young age, she had one clear goal: become a nurse. She wanted to help people, to make a difference, to build a career that mattered. But life had other plans. Marriage came, then motherhood. Not just one child, but several, and with each blessing came another reason to delay her dream. But Tatanisha never let it die. While raising her kids, she studied. Late nights after putting the children to bed, early mornings before anyone else woke up, textbooks spread across the kitchen table, notes scribbled in the margins. She juggled diapers and homework assignments, hers and theirs. She attended parent-teacher conferences and then rushed to her own classes. She cooked dinner, helped with school projects, and somehow found time to prepare for exams. It wasn't easy. There were moments she probably wanted to quit, moments where the exhaustion felt too heavy. But Tatanisha kept pushing. Her husband, Dave, was her rock. They'd been together for 2 decades, 20 years of building a life, raising a family, weathering storms together. And in 2022, they decided to celebrate that journey in a way they never had before. A vow renewal ceremony. It was everything. Family packed the room, friends filled every corner, music played, everything from juke to the latest hits. People danced, laughed, celebrated love that had stood the test of time. But the most special part, their children were there, all of them, witnessing their parents' commitment in a way they hadn't been able to at the original wedding. It was a moment of pure joy, a reminder that despite the struggles, despite the delays, Tatanisha had built something beautiful, a family, a partnership, a life filled with love. But she still wasn't done chasing her dream. In 2022, Tatanisha had paused her studies for that celebration, but by 2023 she was back at it. Books open, notes reviewed, practice exams taken over and over until she knew the material inside and out. And then came May 2024. At 43 years old, after years of sacrifice, after countless hours of studying, after putting everyone else first for so long, Tatanisha Jackson passed her nursing exams. She was officially a registered nurse. The joy she felt was indescribable. In a video captured during her celebration, Tatanisha said something that perfectly summed up the moment. "I like to downplay a lot of things, but this is a big deal." And it was everything. She had done it. Against all odds, through all the delays, past every obstacle, she had achieved what she set out to do decades earlier. For the first time in a long time, Tatanisha could breathe. She could look ahead and see a future where she was living her purpose. Helping patients, making a difference, being the nurse she always knew she could be. She had everything she'd worked for, everything she'd dreamed of, everything she deserved. And she was ready to step fully into this new chapter, ready to live out the dreams she'd carried for so long. But just 4 months later, that dream would be ripped away in the most unthinkable way. Thursday afternoon, September 19th, 2024, just before 4 p.m. It started like any other day. Tatanisha finished her shift, another day as a registered nurse, the job she'd worked so hard to get. She was probably tired, ready to go home, maybe thinking about what to make for dinner. Her husband Dave picked up their 7-year-old son from school. The little boy probably talked about his day, what he learned, who he played with at recess, the usual kid stuff. They met up and headed home together, Cornell Avenue and South Shore, their apartment, their sanctuary, the place where Tatanisha had celebrated her nursing degree just months earlier, where they'd built their life. Nothing seemed off, nothing felt wrong. But Davian was already inside. 10 minutes before they arrived, Tatanisha's phone rang. It was Davian. The call wasn't threatening, wasn't aggressive, just casual, almost normal. "Hey Mom, someone's drinking on the back porch." That was it. Simple, brief, the kind of call that wouldn't raise any red flags. Maybe Tatanisha thought he was looking out for the house. Maybe she thought he was trying to reconnect. Maybe she didn't think much of it at all. What she didn't know, what none of them knew, was that Davian had already broken in. He'd kicked through the back door with enough force to shatter the frame. Then he waited, gun in hand, fake bulletproof vest strapped to his chest, white t-shirt, shorts, standing in the shadows of the home he used to live in, waiting for his mother. Tatanisha, Dave, and their son pulled up to the apartment. The 7-year-old probably ran ahead, excited to get inside. Dave grabbed bags from the car. Tatanisha walked up to the front door, keys in hand. She unlocked it. The door swung open from the inside. And there he was, Davian, her son, standing in the doorway, gun raised. For a split second, maybe she didn't understand what she was seeing. Maybe her brain couldn't process it fast enough. Maybe she thought it was a mistake, a misunderstanding, something that could be talked through. But there was no time. 4 shots, point-blank range, all to the head. Tatanisha collapsed. Dave stood frozen for a heartbeat, watching the woman he'd loved for 20 years crumple to the ground. Blood, so much blood. His son. His own son had just shot his wife, the mother of his children. Then instinct kicked in. He grabbed their 7-year-old, scooped him up and ran, away from the door, away from Davian, away from the nightmare unfolding in front of them. His hands shook as he pulled out his phone and dialed 911. His voice cracked as he tried to explain what just happened. His son, his baby boy, was in his arms, trembling, crying, trying to understand why his brother just hurt Mommy. And then, while Dave was still on the phone with the dispatcher, he heard it. 5 more shots from inside the apartment. Davian wasn't done. He kept firing into his mother's body, making sure, finishing what he started. Then he ran, out the back door he'd kicked in, through the alley, wearing that ridiculous fake bulletproof vest like he was in some kind of action movie. Neighbors heard everything. 8 shots, one would later say. Then 6 more. I thought it was fireworks at first, but it kept going. That's when I knew. Another neighbor, Wendy Herring, was home when it happened. She'd known Tatanisha for years, seen her come and go, watched her kids grow up, and now she was hearing gunshots coming from her friend's apartment.
It was devastating. You know, I'm gonna be looking for her when I come out to sit on the back sometimes.
First responders arrived within minutes. Police, paramedics, the scene was chaos. They found Tatanisha in the doorway, multiple gunshot wounds to the head and body, blood pooled around her, her eyes open but unseeing. 12 shell casings scattered across the floor, a 9mm handgun recovered at the scene, evidence of a massacre. Paramedics worked fast. They loaded Tatanisha onto a stretcher, started CPR, rushed her to the ambulance. Sirens blared as they sped toward the University of Chicago Medical Center. Dave followed in another vehicle, his younger son still clinging to him. The boy kept asking questions. Is Mommy okay? Why did Davion do that? Is she going to be okay? Dave didn't have answers. At the hospital, doctors did everything they could. But the damage was too severe. 4 bullets to the head at point-blank range, no one survives that. Tatanisha Jackson was pronounced dead. The woman who'd just achieved her lifelong dream. The mother who'd fought so hard to protect her family. The wife who'd renewed her vows just 2 years earlier. The nurse who was supposed to save lives. Gone. Pause for a second. Can you even process what that 7-year-old just witnessed? His brother killing his mother right in front of him. Drop a comment below. What do you think should happen to Davion? And if this story is hitting you hard, smash that like button and share this video. People need to hear this. While Tatanisha lay dying at the hospital, Davion was running. Chicago PD immediately issued an alert. Every officer in the city got the message. Davion Pryor, 17 years old, armed and dangerous, wanted for homicide. The description went out fast. 5 C's in, 120 pounds, dark complexion, low afro. Last seen wearing a fake bulletproof vest, white t-shirt and shorts. And then the warning that made every cop's blood run cold. Suspect has a history of mental illness and is off his medication. Officers use extreme caution. This wasn't just another runaway teen. This was a kid who just murdered his own mother in cold blood. The city went on high alert. SWAT teams mobilized. Helicopters circled overhead, searchlights cutting through the September sky. Foot patrols combed the South Shore neighborhood, checking alleys, abandoned buildings, anywhere a desperate teenager might hide. Security cameras picked him up almost immediately. There he was, running along Stony Island Avenue, that ridiculous fake bulletproof vest still strapped to his chest. His cell phone pinged nearby. Investigators tracked the signal, trying to narrow down his location. Was he still in the area? Had he ditched the phone? Was he getting help from someone? For hours, the community held its breath. As the sun set and darkness fell over Chicago, the question on everyone's mind was, where is Davion Pryor? Would there be a standoff? Would he hurt someone else? Would this end in more bloodshed? And then, at 9:59 p.m., something unexpected happened. Davion walked into the 3rd District Police Station. Just walked right in. No drama, no shootout, no hostage situation. Officers looked up and saw him standing there. "I know you're looking for me," he said. That was it. Simple, matter of fact, like he was turning in a library book, not confessing to murder. He was arrested without incident, cuffed, read his rights, taken into custody. The manhunt was over. But for Tatanisha's family, for Dave, for their 7-year-old son, for everyone who loved her, the nightmare was just beginning. Because now came the hard part. The funerals, the court dates, the trauma, the questions that would never have answers. Why did he do it? How could a son kill his own mother? And most haunting of all, could this have been prevented? Saturday, September 21st, 2024, 2 days after Tatanisha's murder. Davion Pryor stood in a Cook County courtroom wearing an orange juvenile detention shirt and jeans. His face was blank. No tears, no remorse, no emotion at all. Just emptiness.
The teen has been charged as an adult with first-degree murder in connection with the slaying.
At 17 years old, he was facing the possibility of spending the rest of his life in prison for killing his own mother. Judge David Kelly presided over the hearing.
In court, an emotional Cook County Judge David Kelly said, "This is very sad and tragic to this court. The unprovoked shooting and killing of your mother in front of your father and brother."
Unprovoked, that word hung in the air. Because that's what made this so incomprehensible. There was no fight that day, no argument, no immediate trigger. Tatanisha hadn't threatened Davian, hadn't attacked him, hadn't done anything except unlock her own front door. Prosecutors laid out the details, and they were damning. Davian's attorney tried to paint a different picture. He mentioned that Davian had been enrolled in a GED program, that he'd held a part-time job, that he was trying to turn his life around. But the facts told a different story. At the time of the murder, Davian was on home confinement. He had already been charged as a juvenile with aggravated battery. He'd been found guilty of vehicular hijacking back in July. He wasn't some kid who made one bad decision. He had a pattern of violence. And then his grandmother spoke. She stood in that courtroom and revealed what the family had been dealing with for years. Davian had been diagnosed with mental health problems. He'd been prescribed medication. But he refused to take it. He rarely takes it, she said, her voice tired and defeated. There it was, the missing piece, the thing everyone had been dancing around. Davian wasn't just angry, he wasn't just troubled, he was mentally ill, and without medication, without treatment, without intervention, he'd become dangerous. Judge Kelly listened to everything, the prosecution's evidence, the defense's explanations, the grandmother's plea for understanding. And then he made his ruling. Mental health evaluation ordered. The court needed to understand what they were dealing with. Was Davian competent to stand trial? Could he understand the charges against him? What role did his untreated mental illness play in his actions? But one thing was certain, Davian wasn't going anywhere. He would remain behind bars while the case moved forward. No chance of release, no opportunity to flee, no risk to the community. As the hearing ended, Davian's family, his grandmother, his older half-sister, left the courtroom without comment. Davian was led back to the juvenile detention center. His next court date was set for the following week. But everyone knew this case would drag on for months, maybe years. So what do we do with a case like this? Where does the blame fall? This isn't just about one family. This isn't just about Tatanisha Jackson and Davian Pryor. This is about a system that's broken, a system that fails families every single day, a system that let a mother die because no one knew how to help her son. Let's break down what went wrong. Factor 1. Untreated mental illness in teenagers. Davian had been diagnosed. He had prescriptions. He had access to medication that could have stabilized him, but he refused to take it. And here's the problem. His family had no power to make him. You can't force a teenager to swallow a pill. And the legal system? It doesn't give parents the authority to enforce treatment unless things get so bad that the teen becomes a danger to themselves or others. But by the time it's that obvious, it's often too late. Tatanisha watched her son deteriorate. She saw the warning signs, the anger, the violence, the refusal to get help. But what could she do? Call the police every time he skipped his meds? Have him committed against his will? The barriers to getting real help are massive, especially for families without money, without connections, without resources. And so Davian stayed off his medication. His mental state got worse, his behavior became more unpredictable, and everyone just hoped it wouldn't escalate. Factor 2. Home confinement without proper support. When Davian was charged with battery and vehicular hijacking, the court decided to keep him out of a juvenile detention facility. Instead, they put him on home confinement. Sounds humane, right? Keep the kid with his family, give him a chance to rehabilitate in a supportive environment. But here's what that really meant. Tatanisha became his jailer. She was responsible for making sure he stayed home, for monitoring his behavior, for dealing with his outbursts, all while working as a nurse, raising a 7-year-old, and trying to maintain some semblance of a normal life. There was no counselor checking in daily, no social worker providing support, no therapist working with the family to manage the crisis. Just a mother, already overwhelmed, now tasked with controlling a violent teenager who refused help. Home confinement without proper support doesn't rehabilitate anyone. It just transfers the burden from the state to families who are already drowning. Factor 3. Access to firearms. Here's a question no one seems to be asking. How did a 17-year-old on home confinement get a 9mm handgun? Davion wasn't legally allowed to own a gun. He was a minor with pending criminal charges and documented mental health issues. So where did it come from? Did he buy it on the street? Did someone give it to him? Was it in the house, poorly secured, easy to access? We don't have all the answers, but what we do know is this: a teenager with a history of violence and untreated mental illness should never, ever have access to a firearm. Gun safety isn't just about locking up your weapons. It's about recognizing when someone in your home is a threat and making sure they can't get their hands on something that can kill. Tatanisha is dead because Davion had a gun. It's that simple. Factor 4. Lack of resources for families dealing with violent, mentally ill teens. Tatanisha tried everything. She really did. She got Davion into therapy. She made sure he had prescriptions. She set boundaries. And when his behavior became too dangerous, she made the hardest decision a mother can make. She kicked him out. She cut off financial support. She told him he couldn't come back until he got serious about getting help. She protected her younger son. She protected her marriage. She did what she had to do. But the system didn't back her up. There was no program to take Davion in and provide intensive treatment. No facility that could manage his mental health issues and keep him away from his family until he was stable. No safety net to catch him before he fell completely. Juvenile justice failed, social services failed, mental health care failed. And Tatanisha paid the price. Now, a 7-year-old boy is traumatized for life. He watched his brother murder his mother. A husband lost his wife. Dave Jackson spent 20 years building a life with Tatanisha. And a mother who just achieved her lifelong dream is gone. This didn't have to happen. If Davion had received proper treatment, if the family had been given real support, if there had been intervention before things reached this point, if the system had done its job, Tatanisha Jackson would still be alive. So what can we learn from this? How do we stop the next Tatanisha Jackson from being killed? Here are the lessons we need to learn from Tatanisha Jackson's murder. Lesson 1. Early intervention is everything. Mental health issues don't just appear overnight. There are warning signs: behavioral problems in childhood, difficulty managing emotions, aggression, impulsivity. We need to catch these issues early, in elementary school, in middle school, before they turn into violence in the teenage years. That means funding school counselors, training teachers to recognize warning signs, making mental health screenings as routine as vision tests, getting kids into therapy before they're breaking laws and hurting people. Davion showed signs from a young age, but by the time anyone took it seriously, he was already too far gone. Lesson 2. Families need real support. Home confinement sounds good on paper, but without proper support, it's just passing the problem to parents who are already overwhelmed. Families dealing with violent, mentally ill teens need more than a court order. They need counseling. For the whole family, not just the troubled kid. They need respite care, so parents can get a break before they burn out. They need crisis intervention teams they can call when things get dangerous. Tatanisha shouldn't have been left alone to manage Davion. There should have been professionals checking in regularly, therapists working with him, case managers coordinating care, a safety plan in place. Instead, she was on her own, and it cost her everything. Lesson 3. Gun safety is non-negotiable. If someone in your home has violent tendencies, a history of aggression, or untreated mental illness, firearms cannot be accessible. Period. Lock them up. Use trigger locks. Store ammunition separately. Better yet, remove guns from the home entirely until the situation is resolved. Davion got his hands on a 9mm, whether it was from the house, from the streets, or from someone else. It doesn't matter. What matters is that a violent teenager with mental health problems had access to a weapon designed to kill, and he used it. Lesson 4. Better coordination between systems. The courts knew about Davian's criminal charges, social services knew about his home situation, mental health providers knew about his diagnoses and medication. But nobody was talking to each other. There needs to be coordination. When a teenager is on home confinement with pending charges and documented mental illness, everyone involved should be on the same page. Courts, social workers, therapists, probation officers, they all need to communicate and work together. Because when systems operate in silos, people fall through the cracks. Tatanisha fell through the cracks. Lesson 5. Fund mental health care in underserved communities. South Shore, like many neighborhoods in Chicago, doesn't have enough mental health resources. Clinics are underfunded, wait lists are months long, families can't afford private care. This isn't just a Chicago problem, it's everywhere. Underserved communities, especially communities of color, have been neglected for decades when it comes to mental health care. And people are dying because of it. We need to fund community mental health centers. We need to make treatment affordable and accessible. We need to prioritize mental health the same way we prioritize physical health. Because this is life or death. Tatanisha did everything right. She recognized her son was dangerous. She set boundaries. She kicked him out to protect her younger son. She built her dream despite the chaos. She fought for her family. And she still lost her life. That should tell you everything you need to know about how broken the system is. This case should haunt us because it was preventable. Now there's a 7-year-old boy who will never forget what he saw. His brother murdering his mother right in front of him. There's a husband who lost his soulmate. Dave Jackson spent 2 decades building a life with Tatanisha. They renewed their vows in 2022, surrounded by family and friends, celebrating love that had survived everything life threw at them. Except this. Now he's raising their youngest son alone, planning a funeral instead of celebrating anniversaries, answering impossible questions from a traumatized child, living in a home where his wife was murdered. There's a community left asking, how? How does a son kill his mother? Rest in peace, Tatanisha Jackson, you deserved so much more. If this story moved you, do me a favor, share it. Someone out there needs to see this. Someone out there is dealing with a family member like Davian and doesn't know what to do. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Should Davian be tried as an adult? What should his sentence be? And don't forget to subscribe to True Crime Malice. We're bringing you the stories that matter, the ones that make you think. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Until next time, stay safe out there.